On December 6 of 2023, Richard Allen was moved from the Westville Correctional Facility to the Wabash Valley Correctional Facility in a motion to transfer signed by Todd Rakita. Articles have cited Allen was moved due to his mental and physical suffering. With reports, this move was granted by Judge Fran Gull after they filed an emergency order on April 5th. But during that October 19th meeting in Judge Gull's chambers, she said she intended to deny that motion to transfer, stating the following: "The defendant filed a verified motion for immediate transfer of custody. The state filed its response. The motion again has a lot of inaccuracies and some speculation, and it has been refuted ably, I think, by the affidavits that have been submitted by the state, and I'm going to deny the motion." So what on earth is going on here? Why is everything suddenly changing? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. And if an open conversation is something you prefer, then this is the place for you. Welcome to The Point, so let's talk about it.
Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Now, the Indiana AG has some issues going on of his own, given his previous comments that he made citing other issues that are affecting the state of Indiana. But it was originally reported that he was going to have no hand in helping Judge Gull combat this motion to have her removed from the case. Then he turns around and files paperwork to the Indiana Supreme Court, basically regurgitating a lot of what Judge Gull had to say. Now, Judge Gull's original statements were that Richard Allen was being treated far better than any of the other inmates in Westville Correctional Facility. And would y'all not think that he should be treated better than all the other inmates in that facility, especially considering he would technically be the only one in there who is innocent? And it never did quite make sense to a lot of us why he was transferred there in the first place. The original statements were again that he was transferred for his own safety. But how dangerous is the jail then? Are the officers at that point saying they cannot protect a person in their custody in their facility? And I don't quite understand, and I'm more curious about what y'all think. Why is there the sudden change in everything? If Judge Gull is being correct when she says he is being treated far better than any of the other inmates, then why is it now we are seeing headlines that he is being transferred due to his deteriorating physical and mental health? Now, a lot within this case hasn't quite made sense to a lot of us. My last video on this case, I said I didn't necessarily believe Richard Allen's attorneys were completely blindsided. I still stick by that. But what had happened in that meeting wasn't something that I agreed with. It seemed like a lot of those accusations that were being levied against the state and the correctional facility were being denied or disregarded by Judge Gull as speculation. But here we are now with them moving Richard Allen, according to these reports, based off those allegations. So was he or was he not being abused in Westville Correctional Facility? I think that is the question that we would all like to know at this point. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if he is not facing any type of abuse in that facility, then why move him to begin with? And I still haven't necessarily received a good explanation as to why they're allowing guards to wear specific patches in that prison facility. It should be that they have a uniform, and that uniform should have guidelines. And people can't say that there's not a conspiracy when it is proven in documentation that those patches were being worn. We have had reports from inmates stating that Richard Allen was being abused, and you have to take that with a grain of salt considering their past, but it shouldn't automatically be disregarded as 100% completely false. Would y'all not think at this point a lot of these things being levied against the state and against the sheriff's office and against the correctional facility would warrant an investigation? And it does seem odd to me, and I would wonder if it seems odd to you, that the state AG, who originally said he wasn't going to have anything to do with Fran Gull in this particular issue, has now put those documents up, reiterating a lot of what she has said, and then he turns around now and files a motion to transfer And we have reports saying it is because of his physical and mental deterioration. I would wonder from y'all if y'all are reading that as a way of them saying, yes, something like this went on, without them actually admitting something like this happened. We haven't got a word yet from the Indiana Supreme Court on if they're going to allow Richard Allen's former defense attorneys to get back on this case and represent him. We already know Richard Allen does want them there. I think most of us can agree that if that's who he wants his defense team to be, then that's who they should be, because a lot of us believe we're not going to get justice if we're going out there with torches and pitchforks just railing against whoever the state says did this. We all want justice for Abby and Libby. We all want closure for those families who are really going through this thing right now. And while a lot of these cases people can blame the defense for stall tactics, it was first pointed out in one of Christina Randall's videos that Richard Allen's two former defense attorneys aren't trying to waive his right to a speedy trial. In fact, they're trying to get back on this case so they can get this thing to trial as soon as possible. And when these reports first came out, everybody said it was the defense's job to cast doubt, and that's what they've done. So they have been successful. But as it turns out so far, it seems like a portion of these accusations, at the very least, are turning out to be true. Now, we haven't heard anything about the Franks hearing, and we still haven't heard anything about whether Fran Gull is going to be allowed to rule over this case. At this particular point, I would side with her not being on it, whether she has done anything or not. The fact remains, she has taken center stage in a story she had no business taking center stage on. And we can all agree that her actions within that chamber were not necessarily correct. There are procedures here to remove an attorney from a client, and none of those procedures were actually held. There were no hearings on this, at least not to my knowledge, and if you know of one, you can let me know down in the comments below. But Rozzi is right. Everybody is paying attention right now, and the pressure is on the state to make a sound and reasonable and just decision. It would seem to me at this point, if a true fair trial was what everybody wanted, and justice was what everybody wanted, Fran Gull should just step away at this point. She's taken too much of this story, and if she is allowed to rule over this case, it's going to cast a lot of doubt in a lot of people's minds, and it may even affect the jury at some point in time. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but when a judge is taking center stage in a story that they don't belong in, the sound thing to do at that point would be to step aside. Now, if y'all have seen any of this differently, you can let me know down in the comments below. As it stands right now, we wait for some type of decision from the Supreme Court. It seems to me that moving him from Westville Correctional Facility was the right call. I still quite don't know why they can't put him in some sort of jail somewhere where everybody else would be waiting before they had their day in court. If you know the reasons why they don't have him in a jail, you can let me know down in the comments below. Everything within this particular trial has gotten way out of hand and way out of control. And I'm not quite making sense of any of the decisions that people are making, especially when we have them on record as saying things differently. Especially when we have them on record saying things that don't align with what they're doing. Most recently, Allen's transfer from Westville Correctional Facility. But I want to know where all y'all are at with this thing. To me, it's got my head spinning. But other than that, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being here. Y'all stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.